today. Both Callum Newman and HENARE in different matches today were injured, knee injuries, both to the right knee, and both severe enough that the referee stopped the match both times. So it happened in a preview tag with HENARE against Tomu and Naito.
An arm drag, a fucking arm drag, and he goes down.
An arm drag, yeah, and he just kind of dropped and didn't get up again. And that was one of the things where Kenta Sato stopped that one pretty early. I think HENARE had in mind, maybe I can power through this, and he kind of rolled over onto all fours.
Naito took a shot at the knee, and Kenta was like, no.
Yeah, no. Stop working. And then in the Callum Newman match, now that was a tournament match with Jeff Cobb. They were in the ring there, and he was up on top, and Zack Sabre Jr. and Oiwa were their opponents, and Ryohei Oiwa went to give Newman a superplex, and his right knee simply buckled. And he grabbed it, kind of fell off the top rope in a controlled fall. He kind of knew, I got to get off of these ropes and go to the outside, and then just held on to the knee. And as soon as, I believe that one was Marty, because I think that was the semi-main event,
right.
Marty Asami went over there, and he immediately shook his head no. So whatever Marty asked him, which was probably, are you okay or can you continue? His answer was immediately, And Marty threw up the X, and the match was stopped right there. And Oiwa, Cobb immediately went to the outside to check on him. So did Oiwa. Cobb kind of waved him off.
Felt so bad for Oiwa. He looked devastated by the whole thing. Like, he just babyface through and through kind of thing. And Zach was just kind of guiding him through and trying to like help him keep his composure. But he was just, he already knew what had happened in the other match, and it was routine. It was absolutely routine. There was nothing about it that was like anything. And, you know, Walker on the comms, he was like, we were all just apoplectic. Like, the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? Like, there wasn't anything to it other than, you know, you got snake bit. And, you know, they're playing with fire right now. They're working injuries into these stories with Shota Umino, who also got injured on his, I believe, left ankle, but they're working his right ankle. No, his right ankle got injured, and they're working his left ankle in all the shows. And so they're trying to make that the story. And then Yoda has a minor pec tear, but he's fine. He can work through it. So we're in trouble, buddy. We are in trouble. And I had opinions about Wrestle Kingdom going into like World Tag League. I have completely different opinions now, but I'm not sure how I feel, whether the way I felt before or the way I felt now is better or more valid.
Well, it's interesting because 2 weeks ago when we discussed this, we were only a show or two in. I think maybe only one show in when we were here 2 weeks ago. That's how many shows there have been over the last couple of weeks. We went through night 13 today, and I think we were on night 1 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we had
darn near every day, 1 or 2.
One night to go, basically, in between shows, because we took last week off.
Yeah, sure. And then as we went through that, I remember we said when we were here last time, the word in both of our notes was careful. And
absolutely
how they were working the matches. These all were very house showy type of matches where no one was doing anything too crazy. Most of World Tag League, with the exception of Korakuen Hall and Osaka, Edian's Arena, Prefectural Gymnasium number 2, in the same building as Edian Arena, but the small one, the small gymnasium. With the exception of those two, these have been in mostly small towns, a couple of exceptions, but small towns with small crowds, and they're treating them like those house shows where it's just more about everybody seeing everyone, the crowd seeing all the guys. You don't have to do, put out your 5-star match type of effort. It's enough to play the hits, high five everybody. If you're a heel, scream at everybody and you're good. And it did feel like a bunch of guys who have big matches at Kingdom and at Dynasty coming up were going to be like, I'm just getting through but isn't that always the case? It's when you're trying not to get hurt that you get hurt. I'm not saying that anybody was doing anything wrong. It's just crummy luck. But in a whole series of shows where both HENARE and Newman were doing just basic house show style matches, that's when the knees go. It seems like it doesn't happen at Dominion or at the Kingdom all that often. It seems like it's always these little shows where it's just the one move that goes wrong. Pac, for God's sakes, his career was in jeopardy because he did a baseball slide at a house show and his leg broke. And just something, a guy that does all that and all those aerials, and that's how he hurts himself. Seth Rollins has torn his knee up a couple of times doing pretty fairly basic moves, and it's just something that you can't plan for, and it just happens. My worry is the HENARE one. Newman, I hope that he's okay, of course. Mm-hmm. I feel like Newman's role may have been in a Rambo at Wrestle Kingdom, maybe nothing larger than that. But HENARE, they have plans. They have plans for HENARE. I mean,
I think they're both out of the picture for a long time.
I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they get back there and find out it's not as bad as we think, but I did not like the look.
I didn't like either. They both had the exact same gut-wrenching pain. We both know what that was. Like, I don't want to act like this is going to be okay and they're going to be able to go for Wrestle Kingdom. I think anyone who's seen what happened, when you see it, you've seen it before. You know what it is, and you felt for the guys. Yeah. I can't wait for both of them.
Most fans, we saw this a few years ago with Derrick Rose, where he tore his knee up in the playoffs and was never the same player. And it's new. It's really, really scary.
So, like, I wish them the best. They're going to have to figure out, like maybe they called an audible on that last match tonight because now you have the titles up for grabs. You have to have a heel team in the mix. All of a sudden, like, you have to have Bullet Club in the mix. So even if Bishamon was going to win that match, now you can pivot to a Bishamon, Bullet Club, Great-O-Khan and another like partner, that kind of thing, if you really need to. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that you can do just off of the possibility that they pivoted that last match, the main event, because I kind of thought Bishamon was going to win. Like with the story that they were telling with Sonata and Gabe Kidd, it's entirely possible this was always the plan. You know what I mean? Like the divisiveness, and then they unify, and then they defeat like a stalwart team because of, their opposite attract kind of chemistry. I get all of that. There's just this possibility there that somebody had quick thinking and was like, well, if he's out, we got to figure out another tag match. And Kingdom is off the board for Gabe Kidd, but Dynasty's off the board for Gabe Kidd, but Kingdom isn't.
Yeah, it's a thought. I think they were probably going to do that anyway, and I'll get to why when we talk about the teams and how they finished in the A block. I think this was the plan. I think that you had to go through Bishamon to get there, but I think the story gave Kidd and Sonata making it. And we can go over it now. Kidd, of course, has been in this a couple of times before. Once he was basically he was literally a young Lion team, so he went over in World Tag League. They just got beat every night. Last year, he and Coughlin were in, and they won their block. They finished first in the block, and then Bishamon finished second in the other block. They met in the semifinals. Remember, we had semifinals, finals last year. And in that time, Bishamon won. So before this match took place, in backstage comments, Kidd was talking about how first I had to pay my dues, then I got close, and it was Bishamon who took it away from him, and then tomorrow I'm going to take it away from you. And so there's a little too much continuity there. Also, I think they really want to get Sonata over in this War Dog heel role. So my guess is that Bishamon was supposed to get close, lose on the very last night to this heel team, because then you set up two things. Mm-hmm. I believe, still predicting, that Hiromu and Naito are the planned winners of the B block. I still think so.
I think so too. I think with the way everything's lining up, and especially given what happened, there's a very real,
So you absolutely could have Naito and Hiromu against Bishamon. Nothing wrong with that. Be a terrific match probably, and that would be the 3-time defending champions to overcome all that kind of stuff. Or as you have two of the most popular guys on the roster with Naito and Hiromu, you could have them against the biggest heels. And really, they're bigger heels than, I would say, the House of Torture, which can be comedic figures sometime. And House of Torture is obviously headed in a different direction. So to me, Kidd and Sonata were the biggest heels in this tournament. So you can have your biggest baby faces against your biggest heels in the finals and get everybody into it when they get to Kumamoto. So it's
messy.
It's messy. And if O-Khan is out of it, it makes it even messier. So
okay, so I have a couple questions.
Not O-Khan, excuse me, Finare's now. O-Khan was fine. In fact, he was smart enough to work afterwards, like he was infuriated at Naito and Hiromu and had to be held back,
right.
kind of distract and let everybody work on HENARE while still staying in characters,
maintaining the facade in a convincing manner.
I thought that was some pretty quick thinking by O-Khan there.
I thought so too. Okay, so Gabe Kidd has a match at Wrestle Dynasty with Kenny Omega, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The Young Bucks have a match at this point with Great-O-Khan and HENARE that is dubious at best.
Yeah, so, I'm not liking HENARE's chances of making that, although I haven't heard anything yet.
What do you do with the Young Bucks at Wrestle Dynasty? Who do you have them face?
I don't know. I just don't know. It's a tough call. I'm just not sure at this point.
I was never convinced that it was always going to be Great-O-Khan and HENARE alone versus the Young Bucks. I think you can do Bishamon versus the Young Bucks, but I almost think that you can't do that now. You might have to end up doing Naito and Hiromu versus the Young Bucks at Wrestle Dynasty.
The night after they wrestle each other at Kingdom, we're figuring?
If they don't wrestle them at all. If now they have to do a tag match.
Well, but I mean, here's my thought on this. They don't necessarily get a shot at the tag team titles at Wrestle Kingdom. So
no.
I always thought that we supposed that maybe Hiromu and Naito could win this thing and say, well, the
match that we really want is this, and we want it here.
Yeah, so they could wrestle each other January 4th. Like we wanted a ticket to the Tokyo Dome. Now we've got our ticket to the Tokyo Dome, but we want to wrestle each other. And this has been however you want to have that play out.
Okay, so if Naito and Hiromu win the World Tag League and call their shot that way, do you think that New Japan would then announce like a 4-way match at Wrestle Kingdom with all the teams for the vacant?
Well, they might do that at Dynasty. Or yes, they could.
Well, if they do it at Kingdom, then the Bucks will have a match to face Dynasty.
Yes. You know what? You're right. Yeah, that's the way they ought to do it, is to have some kind of vacant filler.
So if supposedly Naito and Hiromu win World Tag League, defy the shot of the tag titles and instead, go like, hey, we want each other. And then New Japan's like, well, the titles now need to be on the line. And then you put Gabe Kidd and Sonata in there, and you put Bishamon in there. And then, you put whoever else you want in there, frankly. You could put, no, you can't do that either. I was going to say, you can put Cobb and O-Khan together, but Cobb's already got a match. And there's no, United Crumbling Empire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that other guy, the new guy, could be with Cobb in a tag match at Wrestle Kingdom. What a spot to be in. You know what I mean?
Jacob Austin Young or something.
Yeah, Jacob. Brad, I believe, is a big fan of his and was aware of him for a while.
It's tough, isn't it? Because so many of these teams have one guy, at least, sometimes two, that are already wrapped up.
Yeah. I really thought it would be Taichi and Sonata at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
I thought that would be like a big lock. And, what a mess, man. What a mess. But I think the best course of action is Naito and Hiromu winning, calling their shot outside of the tag team division to face each other. Then you do the big 4-way match. You get the titles. Then you put the Young Bucks on Dynasty with them. Maybe 2 teams because there's a contested finish. And you have 2 teams in there. And you just do like a 3-way on Dynasty. And you get Gabe Kidd back where he needed to be. And